We are privileged today to be joined by Honorable Martin Shikuku, the former Member of Parliament for Butere and one of the renowned and the fiercest voices for the fight for the rule of law in independent Kenya. Thank you, Mheshimiwa, for joining us today.
Thank you.
To start off, Honorable Shikuku, could you just recount for us the last months or the years, the baby steps towards the final meeting of Lancaster in the making of the Constitution, the Independence Constitution of Kenya?
Well, first and foremost, we were colonized, and for over 80 years. And then there was a struggle. And this struggle resulted into 1960, 61, we had a conference of members of Legico then. 1962, we had another one, which I consider to be semi-final. And in 1963, we had the final constitutional talks in London.
How was the final meeting? How was it in the background, behind the scenes? Because history tells us that it wasn't as smooth as many would like to believe today.
Of course it could not have been smooth, because we had about 5 issues we were talking about. 1, we wanted to be independent. 2, the colonial settlers here didn't like to hear the word uhuru. 3, we had this problem in northeastern province. It was called, then referred to as NFD. Those people wanted to succeed to the Great Somali. 4, we had this issue of the Mombao, the coastal strip, the 10-mile coastal strip from Vanga to Lamu, which the Sultan of Zanzibar was claiming. And 5, we had this problem of the Maasai, the question of land, because there were few, yet they had a lot of land. And when it was suggested to them that land would be controlled by the counties, they just told us that cannot be, because we've only got 2 counties, Maasai, Kajiado and Narok. But you've got the land all over. Even Nairobi is a Maasai land. The word Nairobi is Maasai. Nanyuki, all Kalau, all Eldo, Uasin-Gishu, and Elbagon, Turi, all this was Maasai land. And they could not be controlled by the 2 counties, county councils. So as a result, they refused to sign on Uhuru. And I remember people like the late Conchela, late Tipis, and others refused to sign.
How did you eventually overcome these differences in the Kenyan delegation to be able to reach a deal at Lancaster?
Well, we had to overcome it because I think the colonialists planned their conference very well. They took us there during winter. And we were told by them that was the coldest year in the history of Britain. So as we got out of the aircraft, our nails went blue. It was extremely cold. And we rushed into the air terminals. And we had to remove all our shoes. We had to get all our coats. We were in suits, but they were not suitable for winter. So they took our measurements. They brought us even gloves, brought us heavy sweaters, scarves, and we looked very different from what we were when we came from Kenya. They brought us winter shoes because as we went into the airport, the shoes that we had, our toes could not be moved. They were stiff like wood, and so we had to get these winter shoes. And then later on went to Lancaster from airport. It's about 40 miles from Heathrow Airport to the city center of London.
The Lancaster talks were political negotiations in preparation for Kenya's independence. And the nature of political negotiations, even as seen in Kenya itself, they can be quite stormy. What kind of picture can you paint for us about what went on inside Lancaster House during the talks?
During the talks, I think the late Duncan Sandys, is now late Duncan Sandys, the colonial secretary, did a lot. I think they had prepared very well. He dealt subject by subject. First, he started the NFD, who wanted to secede to Great Somali. He told him that could not happen because Kenya was going to be independent on the present borders, which were decided in Berlin. And Britain was a member of Berlin Conference, and they had no power to change those borders unless the Berlin Conference is reconvened. So he just ruled nothing doing. You will remain in Kenya. And of course, later on we had this problem when we came back from London, the shifter issue, which was nipped in the bud. And the other issue was the issue of the colonial settlers. He told them, we will buy you out from those lands, and the land will be reverted back to the original owners, which they did. And the other issue about the Sultan of Zanzibar, we had a long, serious debate, and it ended up very early in the morning, about 2:30 in the morning, when he decided to make a ruling. He heard the views from the representative from Sultan of Zanzibar, and of course we had these people like Nasir, who was representing the Mombawists in the coast. And in the end he said, I think I would agree with the argument to the effect that it's not normal for an island to claim a part of the mainland, but it's normal for the mainland to claim an island, because the possibility of water heaving a part of the mainland and making it an island is there. But you can't have an island claiming a part of the mainland. So he ruled from Vanga to Lamu, which is the 10-mile strip, would be part of Kenya. And that, the border of Kenya will be 200 nautical miles into the Indian Ocean. And of course we had Mr. Shamte, who was the then Prime Minister of Zanzibar. I don't know whether he's alive. And if he's alive, he'll hear me loud and clear. He told him, he asked, will the people in the 10-mile strip, who are the subjects of the Sultan of Zanzibar, be allowed to practice their Muslim faith? Of course, Duncan Sand never replied to that question. So Mr. Kenyatta looked at Ngala, Ngala looked at Kenyatta, we looked at each other. And we all just, we didn't hesitate in saying, fine, because we have got the 10-mile strip, 200 nautical miles into the Indian Ocean, and somebody wants to say Allahu Akbar, and even Allahu Akbar means God is great, and who doesn't know God is great? So he said, agreed. So the issue of some people thinking that we were in Lancaster to discuss about religion, Christianity or Muslim, is not here. It was not there. It has never been there. And for those who want to learn history, they should know that Nabongo, Mumia Nabongo of Mumias, was a Muslim much earlier than 1963. And as a matter of fact, Muslim faith had even reached Uganda. So we are not trying to stop the Muslims from practicing. So we said, agreed. And that's how the Kadis court came in. Now, for the Kadis court people to make this argument that it should not be there, it's very unfair in the sense that it was the British government, the Sultan of Zanzibar and Kenya. We had some sort of what you call agreement that will be the thing. And the Kadi is a person charged with the duty of to be in charge of those who want to marry each other of age. A man and a woman of Muslim faith, they go to him to get their wedding or whatever it is to be officiated. And he also, the Kadis, gives the same certificate which those who get married in the church get. Look at any certificate, you not find a certificate with a cross on the certificate. It's the coat of arms, which the Kadis issues the Muslims, and which the reverends or the priests issue to those who get married. And they all come from the Attorney General's office. And a Kadis is paid by the government to deal with marriages, divorces, and inheritance according to Quran. So if you say you don't want the Kadis, then you are not being reasonable in the sense that you go to church to get married. Why do you refuse other people to go to Kadis to get married?
So apart from the issues relating to the coastal strip and the issue of the Maasai land, there were also points of difference between the members, representatives in the delegation of the different parties, KADU and KANU. What were some of the hottest issues between KANU and KADU at that time during the Lancaster talks?
Well, KANU people believed in centralization of power. Kenya African Democratic Union, KADU, believe in decentralization of power. So it's not a question of personalities, it's a question of policy. This believed in centralization. We believed in decentralization of power right to the end. And I think we got away with it. We won, those who believed in decentralization of power. And I think for those who think that we went to Lancaster and the colonials just gave us a constitution and came back with. The constitution we came back with was a constitution we, and I mean we, KANU and KADU, agreed upon in Lancaster. It was not something we were given. But when we came back and we became a republic on 12 December 1964, that's when, and all these powers had been decentralized into the system. When we became a republic, Kenyatta appointed the late Tom Mboya to be Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs with the instructions to get all the powers that had been decentralized back to the center and handed them to Kenyatta. It was not just done by somebody declaring. No, there were debates and there were over 39 amendments to the Lancaster House Constitution talks. And because KADU had the minority in Parliament, we used to debate, and after that a vote is taken and we used to lose. So all the power was sent. That's how an imperial president was born. Kenyatta was the first imperial president. Well, all the powers were given to him. And of course, Mboya, who did the lot to get that, he was unfairly awarded by being given 3 bullets in his chest for his lunch, because it was 1 o'clock, I remember. And that's where we came off the rail.
You're talking about over 39 amendments to the Lancaster Constitution.
Original.
And already, we're just days after the adoption of the new constitution at the referendum, and people are pulling apart over amendments. Are we trying to repeat history, do you think?
Well, at that time, there's a difference between the then constitution we agreed with in London and the present one. This was a constitution made by, or rather on behalf of the people, by their elected representatives. This present constitution is not going to be treated the same way the Lancaster original constitution was treated, because even the present constitution we have is not the original constitution. It has been mutilated so much that it became useless, and that's why we want a new constitution. That's why some of us who are still alive, and for your information, KANU had 12 delegates in the final constitution talks. all of them have died except Ngala Mwendo from Kitui. And in KADU we are 6. I'm the only one alive. So we're only 2 alive. And God has blessed us to come and give you this free knowledge to remember. You may have read about the Constitution, you may be a professor, but I think we are better professors because we were there. And you are reading somebody's story, which may not be true, but we were there. And we are grateful to God that we are alive. We are going to see the Second Republic on 27th of this month. I hope I'll be alive. And I hope those who are listening will know that the present Constitution cannot be amended like the one we came back from Lancaster, because the people, this is the people's Constitution. The people have voted. A referendum proved it, that the people, what the people want. So you cannot amend it like they amended the Lancaster one, because you'll have to go back to the people.
Mheshimiwa, you're talking about, as you say, you were there, and you've given us a history of amendments that spanned the period from independence to date. For over 25 years, you were a member of parliament for Butere, and so you saw firsthand the one amendment after another, what happened, how they went through parliament. Why was it so easy, for example, to pass these 39 amendments?
It was easy because KADU was a minority party. We were in the opposition, but KANU was the majority. You can talk from morning to evening. They just listen, they look at you, they never interrupt you. And then the stage comes when the question is put. The speaker will stand up. If there being no member wishing to contribute, I now put the question. The question is that whatever, as many as the opinion say aye, they say aye. Contrary opinion say no. Ayes have it, because the no's were fewer. And so I would not accuse anybody of having imposed the amendment, because we debated and we had great debaters. God blessed Kenya with a lot of debaters. I miss them. And it's not where you had people hurling abuses. You had to do a lot of research. You go to the library, do your research. You speak from research. Today, they don't do that. And when somebody takes the floor, you would enjoy yourself, because though you may be in the opposition, but the contribution from the government also, and the contribution from the opposition, you find it was quite interesting. We had people like Agwin Skodek, we had people like Tom Boyer, we had people like Kagia, we had people like, Ngala. You know, when they take the floor, you get quite entertained. And those days, the parliament used to be attended by a lot of people coming to see the parliament, and they enjoyed themselves. They had to queue, and some have just got to be removed to make way for the next ones to come in. It was quite like football, and I miss those days. But that's how it happened, because those amendments went through because we won a minority party in parliament.
Tell us about those days, Mheshimiwa, that you say you miss, because that time, until very recently, parliament proceedings were not aired on on national television, and there's so much that Kenyans never saw. What are some of the moments that you remember in that parliament in your 25 years as member of parliament for Butere?
One, I must give credit to the newspaper men and also the radio men, because we had this program called Leo Katika Bunge. And that program became so popular that those who were not in Nairobi, although the reporters were giving the synopsis of what really took place that day in Parliament, the radio was the most ideal thing, and you'll find in the evening, Leo Katika Bunge. The old men and women will never allow a kid to come around making noise. And if you made noise, they'll give you a good whip, because they want to listen to everything. And as you see, a blind man his senses of hearing is sharper than yours. So because they were not educated, because they not have all this, whatever they had stuck here. And sometimes I meet some of them tell me, remember in 1967, 64, you said this and that. They had a photostatic sort of memory of what happened in Parliament. And they would tell you what happened, though they did not write it down. So that inability to write, that sense of to write went into the ears and memory. So they could remember whatever you told them or what you said in Parliament. So that's how it went.
What are the greatest moments?
Oh, greatest moments in Parliament. Sometimes you would. We had these issues of substantiations, understanding order number 86. Well, you may say anything, but you'll be held responsible for whatever you say if you are challenged to prove it, or rather to substantiate it. And that time, sometimes I had quite a hell in Parliament, because I made a habit of making allegations. And sometimes I would organize my colleagues. I would not tell you that you are a witch, for example, until I have evidence. And when I say so, I organize somebody. I will not say you are, but I'll organize somebody to ask me, who is this man you are talking about? That's when I'll come and mention your name and give the evidence that proves that you are the witch we are talking about. One of them was this time, much later, when we had this problem of there was a person who wanted to overturn Moi's government. Remember those days? And I stood up in Parliament, but I had already spoken to my friend, who is still alive, Mr. Charles Njonjo, that I called him, Gigi Karaoke, Mark Midaga, Gigi W. Ndenge, and myself behind the speaker's seat. And I told him I have evidence to prove that you are the person we are talking about. And I wanted you to spare me the agony of giving this evidence. And of course, George was George those days. He just decided to take out a cigarette, and he had this thing you put in a cigarette and lit. Then GGW then asked him for a fake. He gave him, and he lit the cigarette for Mr. Ndenge. And they went on puffing. Then I told him, spare me this misery. Withdraw and resign, because I have evidence to prove it's you. Then I don't know what happened. He just decided to turn around on his heel and walked away from the room, went through Parliament and went home. So when we came back to the chamber, I was given the opportunity to speak, to substantiate. Indeed, he was. I produced evidence of his account in Chase Manhattan Bank in New York, Sussex, South Africa, checks he had issued, cash checks, you signed the front and the back. I remember Mr. Mnyasia, a member from Kitui, I stood on a point of order and said, I think we should give the person on the floor more minutes to speak, because he's now giving us evidence, he's educating us. And the speaker put the question, he didn't allow a debate. I put the question, as many as the opinion say aye. Then I had more 10 minutes. So I went on, the whole table became white with the documents. That was on Wednesday. Then honestly, we have two sittings. In the afternoon sitting, at 3:45, Jojo came in. And the people thought today Mr. Shikuku is going to have it. So he stood out on a point of order and said, Mr. Speaker, I've had a good look at the documents laid on this table by the member for Butere, and I find they are correct. He came and sat next to me. We are still friends up today. He came and sat next to me and said, Martin, how did you get these documents? Don't I pick them from a dustbin? Which dustbin? Then I said, well, there are a lot of dustbins around. And they said, I respect you. You're not like those nyangaos who are denouncing me. And I've helped most of them. I've never helped you. With those words, he stood up, went to the bar, bowed to the chair, went out and resigned as a minister for Constitutional Affairs. He resigned as member for Kikuyu and also resigned as a life member of KANU. And we are still friends up to this moment.
Mheshimiwa, given the history, Kenya's independence history and the quote-unquote disaster we've had with constitutional amendments, have we, in your opinion, set the bar too high for amending the new constitution?
I don't think we are set too high, because it's easy to buy or to confuse 100, 200 people. And you should know that many of them don't sit in the parliament. You watch the TV, but I think this, in the new republic, I think the commoners, the voters, must be allowed to see the whole parliament. And if possible, the names of constituencies should be identified. So when the camera goes around, it will find the member for Butere is not in. And if he says it's the committee room, the committee meetings should also be televised. If he's not in the main chamber, we will find him in one of the committees. And if he's neither in the committee or in the main, we will ask him where he was. And that should also depend on him being re-elected or not, because many of them don't sit in parliament. And that is bad. And many of the laws have been passed with the 10, 13 MPs, when a quorum is only 30 members. So I think that is something they should improve upon. And a member of parliament is paid to talk. Those who say, and I've said it many years ago, that a member of parliament is a bridge between the people and the government. He's got to bring the aspiration and the problem of the people to the government. And who is the government? The government is the president and the cabinet. The assistant ministers are not government. So you bring your problem to the government. If it's about road, you talk or you address your question to the Minister for Roads. And Minister for Roads is the one to make the road. You don't make the road, because the public pay taxes to the government, not to the MPs. And some MPs should listen when I'm talking. Because you, as a member of parliament, you cannot do from your salary, develop your constituencies. Today, they are saying, oh, we have developed more than the old members who were there before. Those who were there before these ones had to do, for example, I had to found Butere Constituency Self-Help Development Fund. And I was having 10% of my salary, which was 833 and 33 cents. I left parliament earning 10,000 after 35 years. To go to Harambe of Butere, and each human had to pay 2 bob and every man 3 bob. So we founded the Butere constituency. Today they have what we call CDF. This is what has done a bit of development. And CDF is not paid by the member of parliament. It's the taxpayers' money to develop that area. And I think if we had that opportunity, we would have developed much faster and efficiently than the present one. So they have not developed, that they have done any development. It is the people's money that has developed the constituency, not those members of parliament. And of course, we have had many stories where some of the MPs have misused the CDF money.
What would you advise Kenya in terms of implementation pitfalls that we should avoid so that we don't come to the same fate as the Independence Constitution brought us?
What I'm calling upon the people in this country have come a long way, painful way, have seen people die for this change, have taken a lot of tear gas in these streets for all these 48 years. I want the people to understand one thing. Those who fell during the struggle for independence, They did not, they were commoners, not the sons and the daughters of the big men. They are commoners who died to bring us where we are. But what hurts me more, sometimes I cry, is that that commoner is worse off today than before independence. It's that commoner for the so-called elite who subsidize their education with the hope that they'll help them to come from the mud they are in. Yet those intellectuals are the ones who are looting this country. They are the ones who are pushing that woman and that man who subsidized his or her university education further into the mud. What's the medicine? The medicine, when we start the new republic, make sure whoever gives you money to vote for him, take the money because he's the one who have impoverished you. But don't give that money to your children. It's a cursed money. Go and pay debts or eat it yourself. Because if you take that money and give to your children, none of your children will be a leader. There is a move now where there are people who are supposed only to vote, never to be voted for. And you vote for the children of the rich and the children of the famous. Your own child will never be a leader of this country. But those who fell during the struggle for independence were commoners. I would like to have a commoner ruling this country. And he will not rule this country because he will not have money to give to people to get elected. Therefore, the medicine is that you, the parents, take the money. Don't vote for the man who gave you the money, but vote for a person who has not given you the money. A commoner like you who will go to parliament to pull you out of this mud. But if you continue eating this money from this big man, you are done. I hope, I even hear now, I was in the streets as I was coming here, some people told me, oh look Martin, are we really going to have a change? Because we already hear the children of the rich are planning to be governors where the money will be, and they have already earmarked where to go, some to parliament, some to the regional assembly, or rather counties, to eat the money. Then I told them, the best way, you are the only person who can bring change in this country is a commoner. And the commoner hear me loud and clear. I've fought for all these years. Now I'm 58 years in politics for the commoner. And I want you to hear this. Don't change yourself by not, I know you have been impoverished and the poverty came in this country. It's no secret, and they should also hear me now. The rain started beating us way back in 1992. When the then government printed the Jirongo shilling, the 500 note. And if you read on the Google, you'll find that year, 1992, having printed this 500 shillings note, the value of the dollar rose from 33 to 66, and it has never gone back. This has brought us this unemployment. Cost of living has gone up. People today, even men, have lost their dignity. You see a man asking another man for 5 bob or 20 shillings. A wife is begging, he is begging, the child is begging. It's a sick society. A society lack of morality, society lack of justice, society full of thieves, and society of liars. This is a sick nation. But when we get in the next, what we call republic, this must change. And if it doesn't change, there will be a change that will change us, and very violently.
Talking about making the new constitution work for the Mwananchi, the American civil rights lawyer Thurgood Marshall was advising your delegation at Lancaster.
He was an advisor to KANU delegation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is claimed that he helped draft a very good Bill of Rights that went into the Lancaster Constitution. But still, the Lancaster Constitution has really been vilified for bringing Kenya to where we are today. What is it in our new Bill of Rights that will make things different for Kenya?
Well, if you look at the present new Bill of Rights, I think a commoner has got something to be proud of if it's implemented. It's quite detailed. I am happy personally, because you'll find, for example, they say one is arrested and must be produced before court within 48 hours, minimum, maximum, 24, 48. It's different from the present one. They can hold you in a police station even for 3 weeks. And if they throw you into the so-called remand home, you can stay even for years. And if you go to prison, remand, justice is not immediately meted out to you. You are said, go to court. The normal thing is actually, there's no justice for a commoner. You come from committee in that Black Maria, you land up at the High Court. You go in hoping your case today will be heard and determined. Then a judge asks the lawyer, when can we take this case? The lawyer thinks and goes through his papers and then looks at the judge, before he says anything, the judge says, will it be October be okay for you? Oh, he goes through his papers again. No, I've got other cases. Can you put it January? You know, it's so casual, but they don't know this guy is from prison. And he's expecting justice. His justice is dependent between the judge and the lawyer, when the lawyer will be free. After that, the lawyer goes back to his wife. The judge goes back to his wife or a girlfriend or whatever it is. This man is put back in the Black Maria, driven back to committee till January next year. I wish there should be, I thought if I had power, I would get the lawyers and judges to be taken to prison for about 3 weeks. Then they'll have a rough idea what prison means. Because they talk of justice, but personally I believe until that time you test injustice, you will not realize what is justice.
What else in the Bill of Rights do you think can make life different for a commoner?
Here I've read where they say even that you'd be provided with a lawyer who will be paid by the government. You have never had that sort of thing. So I've read it and I think it's good.
The Lancaster Constitution, the Independence Constitution, gave birth to federalism, quote unquote, a majimbo system. Are we repeating history by going back to the counties and, under devolution, in your opinion?
It's not repeating history. This is what should have happened. You see, we are age mates with Southern Korea, Malaysia, Singapore, and all this. They are more developed than us because they had this decentralization of power. We centralized. We are nowhere near them. Even in the United States, it's progressive. It's not centralized government. It's majimbo government. Go wherever. You'll find, even in Germany. Germany was hard hit during the war, but today is one of the greatest countries financially and otherwise. So the system which you have now tested for 47 years, if you cannot see what is wrong with it, then I only leave it to Jesus to make you see, because you'll never see anything. It's a wrong thing, and it's time we changed and decentralized so that the people, with this stealing of money, corruption in this country, which has started fighting way back in 1964. But today, there's a committee on corruption. Would you believe it? I don't even qualify to be a member of that committee. Yet, I've been standing up, fighting corruption from 1964, a year after independence. And I do remember once we were in Nakuru, the Western Province delegation went to visit Mr. Kenyatta at Nakuru. Say, nimefurahi nyinyi watu wa magharibi mmekuja kunitembelea na nawakaribisha kwa moyo mkunjufu, lakini wengine wakifika huko bunge wanafikiri wamefika mbinguni, wanasema hii, wanasema ile. And Brud Nabwera was next to me. He was elbowing me to say ndio mtukufu. I refused to say ndio mtukufu. I looked at him, he looked at me for over half a minute, and he stopped to continue with that speech. Because I was the chairman of corruption, tribalism, and I was asking people to declare their wealth and explain how they got that wealth. This did not go well. If you want to finish corruption, all the MPs, the president and everybody, the rules should be made so stringent that you declare your wealth and explain how you got. Some of these people who have come into this game politics recently are filthy rich. They can't explain how they got. Some of us were there before them. Were they working 48 hours? I know there are only 24 hours in a day. How did they get this? And of course, the issue, when I told you, when the rain started beating us, it's the printing of this money that some people have become wealthy. You'll find in the forthcoming election, you'll find the former civil servant who looted from the government, the former ministers, the former assistant ministers, the former members of parliament would like to be senators or governors. I call upon wananchi, if you are hearing me, be careful. These are the people you will frustrate your change. You have got power in your hand, and that's your vote. Make sure you don't vote them in. Vote other people, then you'll progress. If you don't hear me, you'll pay for it. You'll take the empty cans back. With me, I thank God I'm still alive, and I'm speaking for you, and I've spoken for you all these years. Hear me and do something. Your child, I want her or him to rule this country. But the present trend where you have, if you are a president, your son must be. If you are a minister, your son must be. If not, your wife must be. If not, your brother be. Those who fell in the struggle did not fail for that. I want everybody to have an opportunity. That's all.
And talking about parliament, you saw the arrangement, the bicameral arrangement from the Independence Constitution. Have we fixed the problem of representation with the proposed arrangement for parliament with our Senate and the National Assembly and the county assemblies?
At the moment, a constitution is a framework within which you operate. And the constitution is the mother law. Anything that goes beyond the constitution is ultra vires, the lawyers so say. Even the standing orders of parliament are derived from the constitution. The standing orders of parliament cannot be above the constitution. Now, that's why the question of implementation is going to come in, where we must make laws. For example, there should be a law where how much each an individual can spend in an election. A law should be made. We had it, but it was removed during Moi's time. During our time in 63, 69 there, I think, you had not to spend more than 40,000 shillings. And you must produce the receipts. And if they find you have spent, you have gone over that limit, you are disqualified. Today, some people can talk to you in the present parliament who spent over 25 million to be a member of parliament. Where did he get this money? Poverty is in this country because some people are eating and vomiting Others have not even had a smell of food. It's a very dangerous situation. The gap between the rich and the poor is too great. Somebody is vomiting and the other fellow there cannot even smell the food. It's a very dangerous situation. So, if money is going to be used by those that have looted this country to govern us, we are going to have a society where you are condemned to be a voter until Jesus comes back. You should vote and be voted for. But today, it is you, the poor, to vote for the rich. And the rich, the poor, must wake up. Take their money, don't vote for them, vote for your commoner, and let him or her go to represent you. That's the only way you can change. But if you go on taking money from the rich, it's just like you know this man is a thief and you put him as a manager of the bank. What do you expect him to do? To sing hallelujah and don't take the money? Of course you'll steal the money. How do you put your goat near the lion and expect it not to eat it? So that's the way. And the commoner must understand me. I'm not against the rich, but I don't like the way they are treating the commoner. Because they impoverished him. And they are taking advantage of that situation to have themselves ruling them and their children to come and rule them and the children of theirs rule this. So you are a voting machine, but you'll never be voted.
Mheshimiwa, finally, you have been a fighter for change for a long time. You've seen many people like you fighting for change and just disappear or die away, having achieved little or nothing for themselves personally. What is your comment on the way this country has treated fighters for change?
It's sad. It's very sad. You see, Europeans can come from London to Kenya to remember those who fell when they were colonizing us. They come here and stand at attention, remembering the fallen soldier. We have no time for them. Look at the people who brought you Uhuru. I know there were 6 leaders. There are many who died, but the leaders, I can count them, were 6. How did they die? Bildad Kagia died here in Mbotela instead of Muthaiga. Poor man. Even I remember there was a time he couldn't pay his bills. The bill was paid by the nation's former deputy speaker. Yet we have got very rich Africans here. From Central Province, to be specific, they didn't pay for his hospital bill. He died in misery here in Botella. Why? Because he insisted that they fought Uhuru for the commoners, not for the rich to come and take the land and leave those people. That was his principle, and that's my principle. He died here in Botella. Fred Kubai, he died with one leg, in poverty, abject poverty in Naivasha here. Kungu Karumba, whom you told us that he was killed by Amin, which is not true. We later on found, when we were finding out the killers of Jem, he was killed behind the Ngong Hills. The Maasais told us. Look at Wana Ochieng Aneko and all this. No one even remembers W. Awori, who was in charge of the Kapenguria. He used to take DN Prit from the airport to Kapenguria, pay his bills. He died a pauper. Even when Kenyatta came into parliament, into power, he never thought of him. It has been a trend which was started during Kenyatta's regime, which is being perpetuated up to date. Many of the former members of parliament who spoke and stood for the people are dying like flies. Poor. Some cannot even afford a bus fare. This trend is a curse upon the leaders, and we must change that.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa, for your time.
Thank you.
Honorable Martin Shikuku.
Thank you.
We have been privileged to speak to Mheshimiwa Honorable Sorry, take that again. You have been privileged to speak to Honorable Martin Shikuku, the former Member of Parliament for Butere, who was in Parliament for 25 years, giving us insights into the history of the constitution making in Kenya and up to date, and what he hopes Kenya would achieve with the new constitution. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you.